So let's start planning this component tree, shall we? And for that, of course, we need to define what our application actually is and what it should be able to do. Keep in mind, we're building the burger builder application. So the goal is that users can use it to add ingredients and therefore build a burger. Now, if we think about the UI, and that is something you typically, of course, get by your designer or you already created. But if we think about the UI, we probably have some header at the top, a navigation bar, where we're then able to go maybe to all our orders, and where we have the builder itself, so the tool where we can build the burger, and probably some logo, some text or an image to the left. Now, the fine-tuning, the colors and so on, again, that is something you probably got by your designer. We're not going to take care about this here. We're going to add some colors as we create the application. Now, what goes on the starting page? Let's say we're on the builder part here now. How should that look like? Well, of course, it's totally up to you, but for me, it makes sense that we have an area where the actual burger is getting built. So where we see a preview of the burger we built. So that is super ugly here, but that of course should be the burger we're building with the different ingredients, which get added dynamically as we add them. Now, to be able to add ingredients, we need some controls, maybe sitting in a box or something like that below the burger. And there we have stuff like meat, salad, cheese, maybe even bacon and so on. And we essentially got a button to add or remove each ingredient so that we can, well, build our burger. And then we probably also want to have a checkout button. So some buttons sitting below everything where we can tap on to buy our burger. And obviously, we maybe also want to see a price or something like that below our burger as a preview so that we can always see what it would cost right now. This is the layout, the simple layout, but which uses a lot of React concepts in which you can split up in a lot of components. For example, here, what we'll probably have is a root layout. So if we build our component tree, we probably have our app component. And in this app component, we might define a base layout for this application, which basically would be the header and the part below the header, we could say. So if we add this here, we might have a layout component. And we could also define that layout in the app component. The layout component probably, as it just said, has a couple of other components nested beside it. Some component responsible for navigation and for the content. Now the navigation, on the other hand, might be split up in a toolbar and in a side drawer because we want to create a responsive application. So we have to cater for both mobile devices and desktop devices. So maybe below our layout, we actually have 4 different components. We might have something like a toolbar, which is always displayed, and the items we display on it varies by the viewport. Then we might have a side drawer. This is simply the side menu we can bring in when we're on a mobile device. For the side drawer, we probably also want to have a backdrop. So I'll add a backdrop here too. And having that backdrop here might make sense because maybe we also want to show a modal for the checkout and then also want to have a backdrop on the root level of our DOM basically. And then we want to have something which we can dynamically wrap. So whichever page you want to display. Later in the app, we're going to add routing so that we can navigate to different pages. So we might want to display the burger builder page or the checkout page, but all pages are going to share that layout. So we're essentially going to use props children here, allowing us to dynamically pass a component into depending on which page we want to view. So these are the 4 components. Props children just as a dynamic component which we nest into our layout. These are the 4 components we probably have on that layout area here. So let's quickly connect them to the layout then, shall we? Like that. Now our application is taking shape here. What should we have below the toolbar then? In the toolbar, we probably want to start writing the code already we need for the toolbar. So the HTML code, we could say. But the toolbar also might contain some components we add. For example, we probably want to have a button which toggles that side drawer. But we'll create this on the fly basically and see how we split it up. But things to keep in mind here are basically the drawer toggle, so a button which toggles the side drawer, a logo which we want to display, and our navigation items. And I'm deliberately spanning navigation items below the side drawer here too, because there we're also going to need navigation items. And if we were to outsource navigation items into their own component, we might be able to actually share them across the toolbar and the side drawer. Because we need the same navigation items, we just need to display them differently for different viewports. So in the side drawer, we probably also want to use the logo then. Because again, this is something we want to show in both viewports, just differently styled. So this might be how side drawer and toolbar are structured. The backdrop basically will just hold some HTML code. We won't have nested children. So that leaves us the props children. That's of course important. Here we have different pages. But for now we're only going to start with one page. That will be our burger builder page. So a burger builder component. Now, how should that burger builder then look like? That burger builder in the end has to give us the build controls. If we have a look at our layout, the build controls, the part where we can add and remove meat, salad, and cheese, and the checkout button, and the preview of the burger. These are the essential building blocks of the burger builder. So what we need in the end here is a couple of components. We need to have our build controls, again with all these ingredient buttons. We need to have the burger component giving us that preview of the burger. And I also want to have some modal which gives us a checkout preview. So where we basically see a summary and could proceed to checkout, something like that. So these are the general components. And again, we might find a finer split or some subcomponents we want to create once we actually start working on this. But for now, that's the split I want to have here. Now, if you think about the build controls then, how should these be structured? What's the build controls components content? Well, it probably is a list of individual build control components. So something like this, build control. That's of course one and the same component, just a list of it. So it might look like that. And of course, we probably also want to have our order button there, like this, so that we have a button to check this burger out. Now for that, we have this list for one, but then we also have this order button additional sitting below it. Now the individual build control elements and the order button are probably just going to contain some HTML, and with that I always mean JSX code. Now how does the burger preview look like? The burger preview basically should hold a couple of ingredient components. So a list of ingredients which we dynamically manage, of course, which the user dynamically manages with the build controls. So that's the idea here. We're going to have that list of ingredients below the burger component. And each ingredient probably is just something like a div, which either displays an image or where we create an ingredient representation with CSS. We will add this styling together, of course. And the modal finally, well, that probably should just be a wrapper component, which in the end takes props children to wrap itself around any content we want to render in a modal, so that we have a reusable modal we could theoretically use for all kinds of stuff, displaying a confirmation message, an error message, or an order summary as we plan to do. So these are probably not all the components we're going to add, but it is a good overview over our tree. We see that everything starts with one root component here at the top. And then we split the tree up, having a layout, which could be part of the root component, as I mentioned, and then having all the different branches. Now, here, where we have the burger builder, this will be kind of like a page. It is a normal component, no worries, but we probably will add more pages throughout this course when we start adding a page where we can see all past orders and stuff like that. Let's, in the next step, identify the state of our application.